You guys are foggy. In here just looks like it. There. Oh, now you can really tell how crazy my hair is. All right, you guys. It is Tuesday night at 5:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. We are going to be making salsa chicken casserole tonight. And actually, I'm going to be putting out a video, uploading it as soon as I get off of this live, on how to make this recipe into a freezer meal. Because I just recorded it yesterday. I'm filling my freezer with meals. Spring is going to be here. Right now it's raining instead of snowing, which is awesome. But I'm filling my freezer with meals because the busy season, the planting season, the everything season is right around the corner. So anyway, so keep your eyes out for that video. It'll be after this one. And I'll upload that. It'll probably be up sometime tonight, hopefully, if the internet connection holds out. I'm hoping I'm coming through clear if you are watching right now, and I'm coming through clear. Let me know in the comments. So anyway, we're going to be making salsa chicken casserole, page 88 of my cookbook. If you haven't ordered this yet, the link is down below. All you do is click the link and pay with any major credit card or PayPal, and I ship you the book. There's over 230 recipes in here. Most of them are up here on the channel, but there are a few family favorites that are not on the channel that are inside this cookbook. So anyway, that is available. They're back in stock, just in case you were shopping for them and they were out of stock. I've got new ones. So that link is down below. Also, anything else on this channel that I mentioned that I really like is linked down below as well. Like for instance, if you're interested into buying some sort of herbal, dry herbs or something, there is a link down below. I'm affiliate for Mountain Rose Herbs. If you just use that to order, it doesn't cost you anything, but gives me a little bit out of your order, out of their profit. So if you're interested in that, that's down below. Also, Perfect Supplements link is down below for liver powder, and they have cod liver oil and they have emu oil to heal your teeth. Lots of amazing products on that website as well. That's down below. And of course, I've got all of my meal plans. They're all down below. And what a meal plan is basically a list of recipes. And you're going to have a shopping list, a pantry list, and directions, recipes to make meals. And a lot of those are 2-week-long meal plans. And basically all you do is you pay $7 and it instantly downloads onto your phone. And then you have the option to print it or go to the store with your phone and look at that shopping list and buy everything that's on the list. So those are all down below. I have, I believe, 4 or 6 different plans. So those are all down below, even one for tooth healing. So that's all down below. We're going to get started on cooking our dinner here. So what I've already done was I started to warm up here on this front burner. I'm going to be using my cast iron. To use one, just any pot with a lid will work. So in this pot is 3 cups of homemade broth. And to it, we're going to add 2 cups of fermented rice. If you don't know how to ferment rice, I do have a video up on how to ferment it. And we'll talk about why we want to ferment it in just one second here. Just going to give it a good stir. My fermented rice was frozen. So it's going to kind of cool this temperature down a little bit, but it'll go back up to simmering temperature, which is what we want. When it comes to a simmer, I'm going to go ahead and put a lid on it, and we're going to let it cook for about 15 minutes. Usually when you ferment rice, it cooks a lot faster. So basically, the reason why we're fermenting the rice is because all nuts and seeds of the earth have what's called phytic acid in them. And that binds to like minerals and stuff like calcium and zinc inside your body. And so we want to remove that. So you go ahead and soak it. And then the next step is basically like an extended soak. Like I said, I have a video up here on the channel about it, but we're basically fermenting a raw food, which is multiplying the nutrients within the food. And then, yes, we do cook it. I actually do it. I ferment it in large batches, and then I freeze it in freezer bags inside of my freezer. And then when I go to cook, it's ready to go. So that is why. Also, people who get bloated from eating rice, if you ferment it, usually that will go away. Same thing with beans. Some people get gassy. Fermenting it helps with that a lot. So this recipe does call for canned black beans. This is actually not canned at all, and it even says vinegar on the front, which is not what's in here. These beans I cooked up the other night, and so they're ready to go. You could do this meal inside the crock pot, which is what the recipe is inside my cookbook. It actually is talking about putting it all in a crock pot and letting it cook overnight. That totally works as well. But we're just going to make it for tonight's meal instead. Another thing this recipe calls for is 2 cups of corn. So I'm just going to add that right now. This is frozen corn from Azure Standard. If I can get it all out. There we go. All right, so we're just going to wait for that to come back up to a simmer. Let's go ahead and chop up some chicken. I'm just going to use some already cooked up chicken. Basically, you could use whole chicken parts when you make this meal. That's really, really good as well. And like I said, usually do that in the crock pot. You could also make this into the oven if you wanted to bake this dish. You just have to alter a couple of things. So I have a bag of already cooked up chicken here. This chicken came from making chicken stock. So basically water, chicken, outside vinegar, all of the good things in a big roaster. And then I just took the meat off of the bones. And then this chicken, it was actually a chicken I made last night that was a roasted chicken inside our oven. And so I'm just going to go ahead and cut this up really quick. It does have a little bit of seasoning on it, but I think it'll be overpowered by the seasoning in tonight's meal anyway, so I'm not going to worry about it. Just going to dice it up into small pieces, and we always make sure that you add cooked chicken at the very, very end of whatever you're cooking, because it will shred up into little tiny pieces unless you're after the little tiny pieces type of texture. But we prefer chunks of chicken in our dishes, so I always add it last. There we go. I sure hope this live is coming through better than the last one. Last week's live was a little rough. It was because the cell phone service was not so good out here. Not much I can do to control that. All right. I can't believe it's already Tuesday night. I had actually forgotten about this class a couple of times today. Oh, I know one thing I talk about. I can talk about chicken. So when you're buying chicken, you're going to want to make sure you're buying at least chicken that has the skin still on. But bone-in is even better. And the reason why is because bone-in chicken is so much higher in vitamin A than boneless, skinless chicken breasts. So whenever I go to use chicken that has skin on, I just chop the skin up along with the meat. And just use it like normal. I have one child that will pull the skin out of the dish and set it aside, which is fine. I'm not going to fight her on the little stuff. Eventually one day she'll say, oh, that skin actually tastes good. Because she does the same thing on a rotisserie chicken. She's just offended by the skin. So eventually she'll get over it. But until then, she can watch the rest of us enjoy the bone-in chicken with the skin on. All right, so that's our chicken. And our pot is coming to a simmer back there. We're going to cook up that rice good. I'm going to go get rid of this bone. I'll be right back. All right. So salsa chicken casserole. So this is going to keep on simmering. Let's go ahead and add in some of our seasoning. So the recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of oregano leaf. I'm just going to sprinkle it. Just going to guess. This is going to fill a 13 by 9 pan. So if you don't want that much food, you might want to have it. And the other spice is 1 tablespoon of chili powder. All right, so it's really simmering / boiling away here. So I'm going to give it a stir, and then we're going to reduce it down to medium heat and put a lid on. So it can continue to cook that rice. Okay, so back to the beans. So a couple different options on the beans on a regular basis. You can ferment them and freeze them into the freezer and then pull them out right before you're going to cook them. I've also fermented them and then canned them. This is not an example. This is not sealed, as I said earlier. I'm just repurposing the jar to hold already cooked beans. But they sure are a great convenience food if you can ferment the beans and then can them, because it's easiest to pull them off the shelf just like a canned beans from the store. And then the other option is you can ferment them and either cook them inside your Instant Pot or put them into the freezer, and then when you go to make your meal, cook them into the Instant Pot. But these were cooked in the Instant Pot, was it yesterday or the day before? And I just transferred the 2 cups that we need into a jar, so it's ready to go. And then tonight I'm going to be using zucchini salsa. This recipe is also inside my cookbook. I love zucchini salsa because this salsa is actually over half zucchini. Zucchini takes on the flavor of whatever food you are putting it with. And so you can't even tell it's even in here. And my husband, who used to be a paste picante person to the end of the world with paste picante, loves zucchini salsa. In fact, he told me I don't have to buy paste picante anymore because he likes the flavor of this so much. So like I said, that recipe is inside my cookbook. It's all the way in the back under canning and preserving. I'm going to be using a jar of that tonight as well. All right, so that's going to be simmering. Usually you can take a few minutes of time off of the cook time of rice and beans when you ferment them, which is super cool. I'm going to sneeze. Here it comes. Something went up my nose. All right. So, I know what else I can talk about while we wait. This is such an easy meal. So I've got some kefir going here. I also have my kefir grains available down below if you're interested, and my sourdough starter. But I tried these kefir mason tops top for kefir making. And I think a lot of times people use it for water kefir, but I'm actually using it for milk kefir. And I did not like it with cow's milk because I felt like the holes kept clogging. I think it's because of the thicker consistency, more cream in a cow's milk. But I tell you what, with goat milk, which is what this is basically done here, it does work really, really well. In fact, I could probably just strain this out right for you. The other thing I like is that it has a closed for the lid, and then you can actually open it to allow some of the pressure out. I know our kefir gets like super, super bubbly, so it's kind of nice to be able to open that lid and let some of that out. So I'm going to show you guys how the lid works. I'm going to stir the kefir because all the kefir grains go to the top when you're making milk kefir. So I'm going to stir it so those kefir grains don't clog up the holes right away anyway. Okay. Okay, so you take off the plastic part. And then you just tilt the jar. Super easy. And what comes out is your kefir that you end up drinking. So like I said, this doesn't work as smoothly with cow milk. I think it's the heavy cream content that clogs the holes. This also will get clogged with the kefir grains. But like once you notice it start to slow down, you can just invert it again and kind of switch it around, and then out comes more. It just makes making kefir so much easier. Usually we use a metal, let me get it out. I'll show you guys what I usually do. So what I usually do is I use a canning funnel, and then I use one of these fine mesh, yes, metal. I've always used metal with all my kefir grains. But I use that right on top of there, and we would dump the kefir into it and then use a spoon to agitate it around to get the kefir to drop through. So this lid is actually saving dishes and time, I feel like. But like I said, I didn't love it with the cow milk, only with the goat milk. But it works super, super good. And I think it would work amazing with actual water kefir. just to be able to like not have to handle the grains. It just sorts out everything else, and then you're good to go. So anyway, this is a Mason Tops product, so you have to go on masontops.com to buy it. I can finish this later though. I don't have to bore you guys with that, but I've loved it with goat milk for sure. Or water kefir if you're into water kefir. Okay, so I'm going to talk about some books because it's spring is coming, or has already come for some of us. So, that are really good. So there's a lot of people who grow more of their own food because of food prices, which is great. Now would be the time to start learning how to grow some of your own food before maybe you need to. So 2 books that I started out with years ago is The Backyard Homestead, and they have this first book, and they have The Backyard Homestead Guide to Raising Farm Animals. Okay, I know Amazon had both of these years ago. I would recommend this to anybody who wants to start growing their own food. So this one's actually falling apart because I've used it so much the pages are falling apart. But it goes over everything that you can grow in your backyard. So this first one is just The Backyard Homestead. Who's it written by? It says edited by Carla Emerys. Anyway, basically this one goes over everything that you can grow on 1/4 of an acre. So like on the back it said, from 1/4 of an acre you can harvest 1,400 eggs, 50 pounds of wheat, 60 pounds of fruit, 2,000 pounds of vegetables, 280 pounds of pork, and 75 pounds of nuts. Now, this is obviously not pasture rotation. This is not optimal, but if you're trying to grow a lot of your own food, this book is amazing. But it talks about fruit trees and dry herbs, you know, how to grow your own grains, how to make your own mozzarella, and then also covers gardening tips like square foot gardening, all of that sort of thing. How to test your soil, how to prune fruit trees. Like it's all in this book. So if you're interested in getting that, make sure that you are even starting to grow your own food. Maybe you live in town, which is why I bought this originally, because we lived in town. There's just tons of really good ideas about how you can still grow your food, not very much acreage. I'm going to stir this really quick and then we'll go over the other book that was part of the series. Okay, I need a... So give it a good stir here just so that the rice doesn't stick down to the bottom. I'm just leaving that crack just a little bit. You guys can probably see the steam coming out. Okay, so back to the books. So I got 2 more to show you guys that I highly recommend. So, anyway, so that was this one. Okay, The Backyard Homestead. And I'm trying to think of what else to talk about in here. See, it's like literally falling apart. Anyway, they're talking about how to select what to grow, how much you need for your family. It has like planting charts and everything. But I love it because it goes through like growing strawberries and square foot gardening, what it means to be a square foot gardener. It also covers like row gardening like they do for commercial growing, how they do that. Just talks about a lot of stuff. So it's a pretty valuable book. I used it a ton in the beginning, but not so much now. It's just a different time of life. All right, and the other one is by the same author. Well, it's not, edited by Gail DeMoreau. But anyway, this one is The Backyard Homestead Guide to Raising Farm Animals. Now, another little asterisk. This is definitely not a holistic view or an organic view of raising farm animals, but I still love this book because if we were considering, say, raising turkeys or pigs or sheep, before we've considered getting any animal for our farm, I've always read what this book has to say about the animal. How many weeks does it take for it to not need a brooder anymore? How much feed should it consume? How much area minimum does it need? All of those questions to decide whether or not you want to raise a farm animal, this book answers them. And then from there, if you decide to get the animal, obviously you're going to want to buy some more naturally minded animal books if that's how you choose to raise your animals. But this one's great because it covers everything from goats to pigs, chickens, geese, ducks, cows, all of the things. And it just talks, meat rabbits, it covers meat rabbits, goats, honeybees, all sorts of stuff. So this is an amazing one if you're going to get into growing more of your own food and your own animals. And then this last one is out of print. So if you want to get your hands on this book, I bought mine off of eBay. But I wish you the best of luck finding one. But I'm going to share it anyway because my daughter accidentally grabbed it down off of the bookshelf when I asked her to grab the other one. And this is an amazing book. And not a lot of people know about it. So this is called Carla Emerys, an Encyclopedia of Country Living Old-Fashioned Recipe Book. So I don't use it for all of the recipes necessarily, although there's a ton of really amazing recipes. But they talk about growing your own food, how to cook on a wood cook stove. It's more so like the old way of doing things. So how to preserve your own meat without a freezer, how to can, how to dry foods, how to make your own soap and candle making, and how to build a root cellar, how to bake bread. This does have a little bit of how to care for animals, but not a ton. And I just love it because it has like a whole section. So if you look up like the carrot section in here, how to grow carrots, right underneath the direction of how to grow carrots are all the recipes that you could use carrots in. So I don't touch this book a lot, but if I have an abundance of something inside my garden, this book is amazing to be able to say, okay, I have 200 pounds of carrots. How can I preserve this or make this into something my family would actually like? And this will be the recipe book I go to. And obviously, if things continue to go downhill with the world and I end up having to improve on my survival skills of off-grid living or something, all the directions, if I need help, are going to be right in this book. But it's a huge resource. It used to be rainbow colored. I guess you can kind of see that on there. But anyway, like I said, Carla Emerys, an Encyclopedia of Country Living Old-Fashioned Recipe Book. If you can get your hands on it, I'd highly recommend this one. But it's a really old book. All right, back to the food. Okay, so that is simmering away. I'm starting to be able to smell the rice cooking, so we're about halfway there, probably, maybe a little bit more. I'm going to grab a 13 by 9 pan, which is where this is going to go next. And I'm going to go grab some lard. I know what I was going to say. I was going to say, if any of you guys have a recommendation for a electric turkey roaster, like the big kind that you can cook lots of things in, not just a turkey, not the oil kind, but the kind that I like to make broth in, that has the removable liner and you plug it in and you can set the different temperatures. If you have a type that you absolutely love, would you put it in the comments down below for me or email me at abhomestead22@gmail.com? I would really appreciate it. I have a really, really old Westinghouse, but I keep having to buy new cords for it because it's like vintage. They don't make them that way anymore, and I love it, but my mom has offered to buy me a new one, but she wants to buy me one that's going to last, and I use it a lot. I use it to make, broth, stock. I use it to render lard. I use it to cook down my tomatoes into tomato sauces during the summer. So it gets used a ton. I use it to make my salsas. I use it to do everything. So if you know of a good brand of the electric countertop roaster, okay, I need like a 22 quarter. Please let me know either, like I said, by email or in the comments down below, because I am in the market for one and I just need to know kind of what people think. I used to have a new one and I went to go use it to cook down my tomatoes. And I used it once and it like 8 holes right through the metal lining. And so that's going to be a no-go. I need something that's big. I need it to be able to hold 22 quarts. But I just don't want cheap. And that's why I love my Westinghouse, but it is getting old. And one of these days it is going to break. So, but it has served me well for probably 5 years of garden harvest, cooking down all sorts of acidic things without burning a hole in it. All right, so while I was talking, I went ahead and I larded up my pan here. So you want to basically cover your 13 by 9 with a healthy semi-solid fat. So I love lard, but you could use tallow, which is basically beef fat. You could even use bacon grease if you wanted to, although bacon grease would be a little off flavor with a Mexican dish, but you could still do it. You could use coconut oil, butter. I already said tallow. You could use palm fruit shortening. You could use, what else could you use? Coconut and butter. Use butter. And this rice is basically done back here. So almost all the liquid is absorbed. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off. I'm going to put the lid back on. And we're just going to let it sit for a couple minutes. So anyway, yeah, lard, tallow, duck fat, goose fat, coconut oil, butter, palm fruit shortening, which I'm going to get the container of that. So just in case you guys missed my Azure haul, this stuff has changed my life. And it is a Weston A. Price approved healthy fat. It's a semi-solid. I basically only use this when I make my breads or rolls or stuff. And it kind of looks like frosting. But I use this in place of butter. And then we just put lots of butter on our bread like we already do. And the reason why I have made this change with my family is because butter is so expensive, especially grass-fed organic butter. And so basically what I've done, like I said, is just replaced the butter in a lot of the rolls and breads and stuff like that we eat. And this stuff makes your bread so soft and so moist, it's amazing. And it's half the price of organic butter. So this is the Azure Standard product. Anyway, it's a good thing. All of their refining processes are natural refining processes. That's why I love buying stuff from Azure Standard. But this has cut our butter bill in half, which is a huge budget stretcher. They sell it in 4-pound containers or all the way up to a 33-pound box. And it does not have to be refrigerated. So anyway, if that's something you're interested in, check it out. It's on azurestandard.com. But I will once again say, just to give no one, I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea, that my family does still eat tons of butter. We still cover our bread in butter. We're not short on the butter. I'm just finding another way that we can make our breads without butter and then just smother it in butter. So, all right. So this rice is done. I'm going to go ahead and preheat the oven to 350 degrees, which you wouldn't have to do, but whoopsie, we're going to be melting the cheese on top, but it'll probably melt anyway without an oven. And then, like I said, usually with this meal, I would put whole chunks of chicken into my 13 by 9 and then mix everything in with it. But tonight, like I said, I'm going to be doing already diced up cooked chicken, so this is basically done. So I believe the recipe calls for it's either 2 or 3 pounds. I could look here just a second. I believe it calls for 3 pounds, if I remember right, of bone-in chicken. Let's see. Page 88 of the cookbook. There it is. It is 2 pounds of bone-in chicken. So I'm going to instead add about 4 cups of cooked chicken to the pan. Like that. I'm going to add our cooked black beans. And 32 ounces of salsa. This is zucchini salsa like we talked about. Hey, Jackie, like we talked about earlier. But you could use whatever salsa you like. This one's a chunkier one. I've used chunky salsa or more liquidy salsa. It doesn't matter. It tastes good either way. And then we're going to give it a stir. It's raining here. We're the only spot in the state of South Dakota right now that is not receiving rain, or not receiving snow. Everybody else is getting over a foot of snow. So I'm definitely smiling over here. Tomorrow's supposed to be high of 32. And then we're into the 60s. Super excited about that. And all of the baby goats are doing well. I'm almost done with my baby goat video that I'm going to put up for everybody to watch so you guys can giggle and have a good smile. I'm just waiting because we just started sticking the mama out that had the twins. And her twins are so cute. They run around and bounce like they have little springs on their legs. You just can't watch it without giggling. And so I'd love to share that with you guys. But anyway, yesterday they just started running around outside. Like they have little springs on their legs, and so today it was raining, so they didn't get to go out. But probably, let's see, tomorrow's Wednesday, so probably Thursday I'll record them running around and jumping and butting heads and acting like silly goats, and then I'll upload it. So that'll be coming out too. And like I said, this recipe, I made it into freezer meals yesterday. I recorded that process and how fast it can be to make a whole month's worth of this meal. So 4 full meals into the freezer. It can be a really fast process. You could do it on the weekend without a problem. But we're making it fresh tonight. So that video will be getting uploaded after the live, as long as my cell phone service holds out. Last time after the live, I know I told you guys I'd have a video up that night, and it didn't go out till the next morning. It took all night to upload. It was just unreal. I think I just attribute that to the bad cell phone service, I guess, or wind. Sometimes when it's windy out here on the plains, we don't get much cell phone service. But you could add, like, if you like spice more than just with the salsa, you could add like a can of green chilies to this. That'd be really good. I'm trying to think what else you could add. You could add other types of beans if you wanted. Do some pinto beans. That would make it fill up more than one 13x9. Just ways to stretch it, you know. That would be super good. And this is like a whole meal in one, although you could make some refried beans or something to go with it. Oh, and then if you're not eating rice, that's not a big deal either, because if you were, let me think about how I'd make this gaps. If you are gaps, you could do cauliflower rice. You would have to reduce the broth by half. Use cauliflower to steam the rice. Use the broth to steam the cauliflower, I mean. And then instead of black beans, you could use white navy beans that have been fermented. You'd have to skip the corn altogether. And then depending on if your stomach can handle salsa or not, you sure could use salsa, and then top it with a hard cheese that you're allowed to have on gaps. And chicken, you're allowed to have chicken on gaps. So this is Romano organic cheese. It's not raw because we're going to be baking it. In the beginning of my health journey, I used to buy organic raw cheese all the time. And then one day it hit me, why am I buying and paying extra? Because raw cheese is expensive. Why am I paying extra for raw cheese when I'm just going to bake it at, in this case, 350 degrees, and it's no longer raw? So if you haven't learned that lesson yet, there's my little tip to you to save a little bit on your budget. Don't pay the extra for raw cheese if you're just going to bake it. Raw cheese is amazing for snacks. Raw cheese is amazing for the top of tacos. Raw cheese is amazing for all of those on top of salad, but not when you're going to bake it. Okay, so this is going to go into the oven, and it's already all cooked. So this is like a 20 minutes until the cheese melts sort of deal at 350 degrees. Super easy. The longest part is cooking the rice. And like I said, I'm going to have a video coming out about how to do a freezer meal, and everything's cooked, and you just put it in freezer bags, and it's ready to go whenever you are ready for a meal. I think that's it. That was dinner tonight. Thanks so much for jumping on, you guys. I promise I will make a pre-scheduled event for next week's. I believe, what are we having? Can I remember what we're having? I don't remember what I'm making, but I do have the recipe picked out. So I will make a pre-scheduled event, get it up so you guys can click notify me. And like I said, all the links for the stuff you're looking for is down below. Cookbook, meal plans, sourdough starter, kefir grains, links to buy liver powder, and all the things that you need to stay healthy. So check out my links down below. I also have a list of all of the ingredients I made today. It's down in the description box. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you guys in the next one.